Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone for the Sunday morning session on Science of Self-Realization. Before we begin our session, let's offer our prayers to Lord Krishna and Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya Ki Jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today morning we have brought a very wonderful topic to all of you. This is regarding the practice of yoga system in the present age, Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada, in this topic, is going to explain to us different aspects of the traditional yoga systems which people have been following and the recommended yoga system, what is there in the present age, through his various talks and lectures. So we'll cover the first subtopic of this particular bigger topic called the practical aspect of yoga in the modern age. This is called superconsciousness. So the superconsciousness basically is talking about the understanding about who we are and what is this whole cosmos and what is that super energy working everywhere. Right? So let's get into the details of this whole topic. All these talks are happening because of the inspiration from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement. He has written so many wonderful literatures, and he has spoken and met prominent people across the globe and given us these wonderful teachings of Vedic wisdom for our understanding, for our absorption. In fact, this book, Science of Self-Realization, is a compilation of his lectures, his essays, his talks, his letters to people across the world, wherein we are benefiting from this wonderful collection of his teachings about the basic understanding of what is Sanatana Dharma and what, as human beings, we are supposed to be following. So we'll first begin with what is known as Introduction to Yoga. Prabhupada says, Krishna consciousness is the highest yoga performance by trained devotional yogis. What does yoga mean? Yoga means connecting or a linking process with the Supreme God, Krishna. Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga is also one of the authentic yoga systems as enumerated by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada is beginning his essay by telling that Krishna consciousness is the highest yoga performance by trained devotional yogis. There are many types of yogis. Even the Bhakti yogis are considered to be one among them, and they are known as the topmost yogis. And the Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga is the highest yoga. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, yoga performance is, the various different yoga performances are described as the different steps of a ladder. It's like when you say school has different grades from 1st standard to 10th standard or 12th standard. Right? Based on the students' situation or students being present there, in whatever class, he is known to belong to that particular grade, right? So likewise, students of different grades are called by their particular, belong to their particular grade. Likewise, the different yoga systems are considered to be different steps in the ladder. Say somebody is practicing Ashtanga yoga, is considered to be coming to one level of progress, called Ashtanga yogi, or Jnana, by knowledge, by speculation, they come to one more level of elevation. That's called Jnana yogi. Or by your activities, you again perform your activities in a particular way, are called a karma yogi. So like this, the yoga ladder has different steps. And the topmost rung of this yoga ladder, the topmost position you have to reach is the Bhakti yoga, wherein once you reach Bhakti yoga, all these other yogas are going to take us to the level of Bhakti yoga. This is the understanding Bhagavad Gita is giving us. So here we can get a glimpse of what Prabhupada is telling us with regard to Krishna consciousness being the highest yoga performance trained by devotional yogis. The yoga system, as is stated in the standard yoga practice formula given by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? There are various yoga systems Krishna enumerates in Bhagavad Gita. Basically, speaks about karma yoga, then bhakti yoga and jnana yoga. Right? And also he specifically enumerates one yoga system called Ashtanga yoga. So the yoga system, as stated in the standard yoga practice formula given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, and as recommended in the Patanjali yoga discipline, is different from the nowadays practiced Hatha yoga, as is generally understood in the Western countries. In the modern day context, people are trying to follow some yoga system, but it is not the standard yoga practice which is recommended in the authorized way Lord Krishna recommends in Bhagavad Gita, or even one of the sages by name Patanjali, who was an expert in yoga practice, he has recommended in this discipline. Something totally different people are nowadays doing. So this is the comment which Prabhupada is making here. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. The real yoga practice means to control the senses, and after such control is established, to concentrate the mind on the Narayana form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Finally, the yoga practice means, yoga indriya samyama. Indriya samyama means indriya, senses, controlling the senses. Why the senses have to be controlled, why the mind has to be controlled, so that our agitated mind or agitated senses are able to focus, concentrate on Narayana. The mind has to be focused on Narayana, Supreme Lord, Krishna. That is the purpose. Either it is Dhyana yoga, Hatha yoga, whatever, Krishna, Narayana. In the Hatha yoga system, or the standard way of Ashtanga yoga system, you're supposed to focus on the super soul within your heart. That is the purpose. Yoga is not simply to do some exercise or some breathing, exercises and all these things and just don't have any purpose. No, yoga, as I told you, yoga means connecting with the Supreme. Process to link with the Supreme, right? That process, how to connect with the Supreme, is called yoga. So any yoga process is leading to different levels of connecting to the Supreme. In Jnana yoga, you may understand one aspect of the Supreme as impersonal light. In the Dhyana yoga, you may understand one more aspect of God as the Paramatma, super soul. So like this, there are different levels. Gradually you'll rise to the highest level in Bhakti yoga, wherein you understand Supreme Lord is a person having so many features. That's the understanding. The real yoga practice means control of senses and concentrating the mind on the Supreme Lord Narayana. And Lord Krishna is the original absolute personality, the Godhead, and all the other Vishnu forms with 4 hands decorated with conch, lotus, club, and wheel are plenary expansions of Krishna. So it's a very important concept Srila Prabhupada is telling us. When people say, especially in India, in Hinduism, there are so many gods, Narayana, Vishnu, Krishna, and so many other avatars, so many personalities. Bhagavad Gita very clearly mentions, Lord Krishna very clearly mentions, that Krishna is the fountainhead, or is the source of all the incarnations and all the other devatas, demigods, and all the other sages. Which means Krishna is that supreme personality of Godhead, from whom so many other forms of or expansions of Krishna, they are called plenary expansions. There are 2 types of expansions. One is called plenary expansion. Plenary expansion means Krishna expands himself into Narayana, or he himself expands as Vishnu. Plenary basically means the expansion may look different from Krishna's 200 form, because Narayana has 4 hands, right? Vishnu has 4 hands. So it may look different, but with in terms of potency or energy, they have the same potency. That's the understanding. That's called plenary expansion. Whereas we, as living entities, we are called separated expansions. We are part and parcel of Krishna, but our energy is very minute. Whereas Krishna's energy is unlimited. This is the principle which Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Aham sarvasya prabhava, aham adirhi devanam, like this Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. And all other forms of Vishnu, Narayana, and so many other expansions are all his plenary expansions. So the Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that we should meditate upon the form of the Lord. Just like the yogis, the dhyana yogis meditate on the super soul, Paramatma form, one of the expansions of Narayana. So what are the prerequisites or the pre-qualifications for practicing yoga system? For practicing concentration of the mind, one has to sit down in a secluded place, sanctified by a sacred atmosphere. All these descriptions are given by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter. The practice of yoga doesn't mean that basically yoga, again, I want to repeat so that we remember the background clearly. Yoga means any authentic or authorized process of linking ourselves or connecting ourselves with Supreme Lord Krishna. So specifically the yoga system which Krishna explains in 6th chapter called the Hatha Yoga system or the Ashtanga Yoga system. Here, Krishna recommends specifically that for practicing concentration of the mind, you have to sit down in a very, very secluded place. Secluded place meaning there is no human habitat, and it should be a very sacred place. These are the prerequisites. And also, Krishna says we have to observe the rules and regulations of brahmacharya, celibacy, to live a life of strict self-restraint and celibacy. This is a prerequisite for practicing Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, which people generally are trying to follow different parts of it. Ashtanga Yoga basically means there are 8 different angas or limbs of that particular practice of yoga, where it starts with yama, niyama, asana. Yama, niyama means rules, regulations, restrictions, then some exercises, and then some breathing exercises called pranayama. Like this, it goes on, 8 steps goes on. So Prabhupada is very nicely mentioning, no one can practice yoga in a congested city, living a life of extravagance, including unrestricted sex indulgence and adultery of the tongue. So clearly Prabhupada is giving a understanding that just like the prerequisite for a yoga is what? You have to live in a sacred, sanctified, and secluded place. And you have to practice life of celibacy, strict life of celibacy. Whereas present day yoga, what is being taught or what is being advertised is that it is practiced in congested cities and life of extravagance, no self-restraints. And there's no question of brahmacharya at all. Unrestricted sex indulgence is going on. And also, with regard to eating, there's no control. Just see the contrast. So Prabhupada is saying no one can practice yoga in this way. It is not possible. At least the yoga, what is mentioned in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, called the Ashtanga Yoga, cannot be practiced in the modern day context. That's the point Prabhupada is saying. So, yoga means controlling senses. Yoga Indriya Samyama. And the beginning of control begins with control of the tongue. Controlling the sense means controlling the tongue. So this itself is not seen in the present day context in people. So how can you practice the Ashtanga Yoga? You cannot allow the tongue to take all kinds of forbidden food and drink. People are eating meat. They are intoxicating themselves with wine. At the same time, they want to practice yoga. This is simply not possible. It's a mockery of the whole system, right? So first and foremost is high self-restraint, which means you have to live in a place of seclusion wherein there is very simple foods available, like roots, herbs, or some fruits. Not like living in a congested city where your tongue is uncontrolled, you're indulging in all types of gratification of your senses, unrestricted way of sex indulgence. This is not what makes you practice any shape of yoga system. So further, Prabhupada explains, it is a very regrettable fact that many stray, unauthorized so-called yogis now come to the West and exploit the leading of the people toward yoga. People have some inclination. They want to do yoga. People, first of all, are misled with the very definition of yoga. Yoga basically means a process, a linking process to connect ourselves with Supreme Lord Krishna. And if you practice yoga for some maintaining your health or curing your diseases, that is not the purpose. That is, they are all byproducts of yoga, right? Because yoga means you are supposed to control your senses and mind and focus on the Supreme Lord Krishna. Concentrate your mind on Krishna. That is the basic premise of any yoga practice, right? In the present day context, we can see people are trying to misuse these different aspects of yoga practice and trying to exploit people's sentiments towards practicing yoga. So the unauthorized yogis even dare to say publicly that one can indulge in drinking at the same time practice meditation, right? They'll not have any restrictions. You can drink, you can smoke, you can eat any type of food, whatever you want. You can lead whatever way life you want. You can practice yoga. This is not what Bhagavad Gita is recommending, right? So what is real yoga? Let's understand. Prabhupada explains very nicely what is real yoga. So 5,000 years ago, in the Bhagavad Gita dialogue, Lord Krishna recommended yoga practice to his disciple Arjuna. This is referring to the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is explaining about the Ashtanga Yoga. Arjuna flatly expressed his inability to follow the stringent rules and regulations of yoga. Right? Arjuna, when this yoga system was being explained by Lord Krishna, this Ashtanga Yoga, the different 8 steps of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, like this, there are 8 steps. So Arjuna flatly expressed inability to follow the stringent rules and regulations of yoga. Why did he flatly refuse? Because Arjuna wanted to be very practical in every field of activity. Basically, the yoga system which Krishna recommended with the Ashtanga Yoga is that he has to go to a forest, a place where there is no people, and a very sacred place, follow restraint with regard to indulgence in senses, and celibacy. Because Arjuna, if you see, he was a Kshatriya. He was a warrior. He has to rule the kingdom. And he was a householder, already married. So for Arjuna, it seemed to be impractical to follow this process of Ashtanga Yoga. That's what Arjuna, for that reason, Arjuna flatly refused the Ashtanga Yoga recommendation which Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna wanted to be practical in his aspect. So he's expressing his inability. So Prabhupada is nicely giving us understanding that one should not waste his valuable time simply in practicing some gymnastic feats in the name of yoga. Okay, for some health reasons, you have to practice some exercises. That is okay. But don't mistake it to be yoga. Yoga means that process should lead you to the highest level of realization that I am connecting to Krishna and I realize that I am spirit soul. These aspects, just to practice to maintain your health or maintain or cure some disease is not the purpose of yoga. Real yoga is to search out the four-handed super soul within one's heart and to see him perpetually in meditation. This is the purpose of real yoga. Right? To search out Paramatma within the heart and see him in meditation. Such continued meditation is called samadhi. So out of the 8 steps of Ashtanga Yoga, the topmost level or the last stage of this 8 steps is called samadhi, right? Wherein you are completely absorbed yourself. So it all begins with, how does it begin? First, it begins with niyama, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, right? As I told you, it begins with some rules you have to follow and some regulations you have to follow, restrictions you have to follow, yama, niyama, then exercises, right? Exercises means the different asanas you have to follow. All this is meant to control your mind and senses. Asana, pranayama, some breathing exercises you have to follow. Then all these are followed, then you come to the stage where it is known as pratyahara. Pratyahara means you have restricted yourself or restrained yourself from the various sense engagements and fully focusing, trying to focus your mind on Krishna, the Paramatma within the heart. Pratyahara. Dharana. Dharana means you're trying to keep Krishna within your heart, which is already in the heart, trying to focus your mind on Krishna. Then dhyana. Continuously focusing, continuously keeping your mind fixed on Krishna. It is dhyana. Then last stage is called samadhi, wherein you are so much absorbed that you have no other diversion or no other agitation in your mind. That is called samadhi, the last stage. So here we can see the continued meditation of your mind, of yourself on Krishna, so much so that you don't have any other thoughts. That is called samadhi. If, however, one wants to meditate upon something void or impersonal, it will require a very long time to achieve anything by yoga practice. So people nowadays are telling you can focus or you can concentrate on something void, shunya, or impersonal, nirakar. This is not what Krishna recommends. Krishna very clearly recommends in Bhagavad Gita to meditate on his form. Right? He has many multiple forms. Advaita, Achyuta, Anadi, Anantrupam. And specifically, when you practice Ashtanga Yoga, the recommendation is that you focus on or you meditate upon the form of super soul, Paramatma in the heart. It's already seated as Paramatma already in the heart. Right? So this is what Krishna recommends in Bhagavad Gita. But if somebody is trying to do something on his own without understanding the purpose of yoga, it is simply a failure. So this type of impersonal meditation or meditation on void is what nowadays people are going forward. They want to focus on some light or nothing. This is all simply making a mockery of the whole system of yoga. We cannot concentrate our mind on something void or impersonal. Our mind requires some engagement. It's not possible to focus our mind on something which is not existing at all, impersonal or void. Real yoga practice is to fix the mind on the person of the four-handed Narayana who dwells in everyone's heart. And this is what Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. You have to fix your mind on me. So for that fixing of the mind, you have to first of all control the mind. The mind and control your senses. There's some different mechanical processes recommended in the Ashtanga Yoga system. So eventually you'll come to the point of concentrating your mind. Now, very nicely, Prabhupada explains the difference between we as individual souls, Atma, and Paramatma. So what is the difference? Sometimes it is said that by meditation, one will understand that God is seated within one's heart always, even when one does not know it. Sometimes some people make these statements. Oh, when you do meditation, you simply understand that God is there in your heart. God is anyway there always. Whether you know or don't know, God is sitting. But by the process of yoga, you will start realizing the presence of God through standard, authentic processes. God is seated within the heart of everyone. This is a statement Krishna makes in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishta. Means he's sitting not only in the heart of human beings, but also in the heart of every other living entity. Right? He's within the hearts of cats, dogs, animals, birds, trees, every entity. Lord is sitting as Paramatma, a super soul. Whereas you as individual is within your body. That's the difference. The Bhagavad Gita certifies this with the declaration that Ishvara, the supreme controller of the world, is seated in the heart of everyone. Right? Krishna makes this statement in many occasions in the whole instruction of Bhagavad Gita, that he's sitting as Paramatma, as super soul, supreme controller of the world in everybody's heart. Whereas we as individuals are limited to our body. There is a difference. Atma and Paramatma. He is present not only in everyone's heart, but also within the atoms. This nice statement by Lord Brahma. He says, Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. So Lord Krishna is not only seated as Paramatma in all our hearts, is also within every atom. Paramanu. Right? That's how this whole world is existing or moving. Right? That is the whole wonderful understanding the Vedic scriptures give us. So Lord is everywhere, all pervading as Paramatma. No place is vacant. No place is without the presence of the Lord. Lord is everywhere. Right? The feature of the Lord by which he is present everywhere is called the Paramatma. Very important principle we have to understand. Lord is seated as Paramatma in our heart and is also present in everybody's heart and is even within the atom. This is the definition of Paramatma feature. Lord is all pervading. He is present everywhere in his plenary portion as Paramatma. It's a very important principle you have to understand. Whereas we are restricted to our individual body. That feature of the Lord who is present everywhere, by which he is present everywhere, this is called Paramatma feature. So we cannot equate ourselves with Paramatma. Why? Because we are restricted to our own body. I cannot say that I am present in your body. Right? Whereas Paramatma is everywhere. That's Lord's, you can say, unlimited energy. It's called omnipotent. He's so omnipotent that he's present everywhere. He's all pervading. Atma means the individual soul, and Paramatma means the individual super soul. This is the difference. Atma and Paramatma means we as individual soul, and Paramatma means is super soul. We are discussing about the topic called Superconsciousness. So both Atma and Paramatma actually are individual persons. This aspect Krishna explains in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. In the very beginning, Krishna says to Arjuna that Arjuna, you, me, and all the different kings assembled here on the battlefield were individuals in the past. Now also we are individuals and will continue to be individuals in the future, which means there is no question of Atma, Paramatma merging. This is what some of the so-called spiritualists tell. Oh, now we are all individuals. At one point of our perfection of our spiritual progress, we'll merge. And this is not the philosophy what Bhagavad speaks. It's totally wrong philosophy. We'll never merge. We'll remain as individuals eternally. This is the Bhagavad Gita's clear understanding. Krishna says clearly, we are eternally individual entities. Krishna is existing and we are existing. There is no time that we merge. This is a very, very wrong philosophy which is being propagated in the present day context. And further, very nicely Prabhupada explains, the difference, however, between them is that the Atma or the soul is present only in the particular place, one particular place, where the Paramatma is present everywhere. So, Atma is very much localized to your body, individual bodies, your Atma. Whereas Super Soul is there in everybody's bodies. And then also, he is present in every atom also. That is the difference between Atma and Paramatma. A very clear understanding you have to have. Because always there is a point of telling in some type of a so-called spiritual disciplines that, oh, at one point of time we become one. Atma, Paramatma becomes one. No, Atma, Paramatma can never become one. It is very absurd to even think of equating ourselves, who is very, very insignificant, with unlimited, supreme, powerful, omnipotent. We are so